I'll give you guys the floor. You can talk about this great car. Carl, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. So I want to tell you, and I know some of you were here yesterday, I want to say thank you on behalf of Ford Motor Company and the Ford family. The enthusiasts of Ford Motor Company are the lifeblood of what we've been able to do since 1903. For those of you who don't know, Performance founded Ford Motor Company. So performance and car enthusiasts like you started Ford Motor Company, and on behalf of Ford, the Ford Performance team, and the Ford family, we want to say thank you. We don't know how much you know about the history, but when Mustang started and Lee Iacocca and the Ford Fairlane Committee came up with the Mustang as a white space car, one that wasn't out there before, as a touring car for the folks returning from the war who had more disposable income. Now, it wasn't initially a race car. So Carroll Shelby and his merry band of hot rodders took that Mustang in '65, made a GT350 competition model that we all call the R car now, and went on to win SCCA Production B in '65 and '66. Now you had Parnelli and the Boss 302s, you had the legendary IMSA cars. From that point in time, Mustang came not only as a road course, a mile and down there and run quarter-mile hole shots. So the car that started out as a touring car became a performance vehicle. Now, Carroll with the GT350, it was left and right, it was a road course car. He came out with a GT500 a few years later that had things like a radio and air conditioning, you know, those minor creature comforts in there. But that was known as a straight line car. You know, in the ads that Carroll did back in the day, he had ads that said, Le Mans inspired engine that in here for the power plant. This was not a car that was the merry band of engineers that we have today. And the 2020 Shelby GT500 is not your grandma's and grandpa's GT500. This car, now we don't have the horsepower yet, so we're not going to make that announcement today, but we are saying 700 plus horsepower is not only going to be a straight line car. We're talking 0 to 60 in the mid threes. We're talking sub-11 second quarter miles after you drive it directly out of your dealership and to the mile and drag strip. Sub-11s, and I can't wait till people actually get to go out there and do that. So it meets its criteria of good creature comforts and a good straight line. However, it also happens to be the fastest production road course Mustang we have ever done. So not only does it go straight and fast, it is also a world-class road course vehicle. And here to tell you how the magic that happened in that GT500 is the Ford Performance Chief Engineer, Mustang Chief, Carl.
So Jim said there's a relatively large team that actually puts together vehicles like this. It's my opportunity today and honor to represent that team. We're still working on the car. I'll be flying out to Arizona on Monday to do the final calibration work for the transmission. So when you think about this car, what we want to accomplish with it, you can think about it a couple of different ways, right? It has to be the pinnacle of the Gen 6 Mustang. So the best of the best with the independent rear and front suspension plan. You can think about it also from what Jim was talking about in the heritage of the GT500. It's really putting a marker down in the pony wars, right? This has got to be the best of the best that the Mustang can bring forward. So it's representing not only Mustang and Ford Performance, but the entire identity of the Mustang. So when we go into something that's serious, there's a lot of people who put a lot of effort to bring the best of the best for technology. So as we laid this vehicle out, if you look at it, there's a tremendous amount of design work to make it look aggressive, but all that design work is tied to aerodynamics. And then the engine, transmission, totally different. So we knew we had to drive this car as fast as possible on the track. So in those ways, we need both a powertrain, but we also have to get the rear wheels on the ground for grip. So it all was around best aero we can get, but styling at the same time, and the most power we can get out of a forced induction 5.2 liter. So as you think through the block and everything else that had to happen, So we go to a cylinder that's taking 1,800 PSI of pressure at peak power. So in essence, the block we started with, which we loved the GT350, we had to tear it up, redo it, longer head bolts, more ribbing, bigger bearings. We had to cascade that back into the 19 show. So the block itself had to be improved to get that strength we needed with that extra pressure. And the cylinder heads are all new and unique to the GT500, with valve train, seals, new supercharger. It's kind of crazy, right? So you can pull the base burner, like supercharger on a 5.2, and then drive that horsepower towards the system. So that supercharger ends up at 12 PSI boost. So that is really the blood of the system that's driving that force induction to get you that torque, get you that horsepower out of the system. So we found out with that much torque, we needed a totally new transmission. So we worked with our partners at Tremont, and the transmission in this vehicle was that joint development, all new. The DCT transmission, so same general stuff we use on a transaxle GT program, but in this case it's not transaxle, it's bolted to the rear face block. And then DCTs, the way to think about them is an electrically controlled manual transmission. Right? It's not like an automatic that we use in the 10-speed transmissions in the base Mustangs. It has the capability to drive torque immediately to the wheels, right? So we don't have to have any braking in action, but we can do it in 100 milliseconds. And that's key, right? To get that speed on the road course, we need to go from gear to gear to gear as quick as possible and not lose any torque. So not only do we need the new transmission for an upgrade to handle all the torque to the wheels, because a lot of things we do on Mustang is we're really driving the maximum amount of torque to the wheel, right? We want the power and the torque to the wheel, not just advertising. So the totally new Tremont transmission, the DCT, gives us that capability to then have the right gear in and out of the corner rapidly as we use either track setting, but it also, we can change that setting as we go to drag, and we give you the maximum amount of torque as you go through a drag in a straight line. And so that ability with an electrically controlled system to set up that power for your event at the best times possible as you're driving out of the dealership. So that integration of the powertrain is key. And then we had so much torque, we actually had to put a carbon fiber drive shaft in, so that's new for the vehicle. All new bigger half shafts, which is amazing that my Mustang team can create even bigger half shafts every time we do a vehicle. And then when you get to the tires, you'll notice we got a huge 20-inch tire, and that's to drive and track capability. So we have so much torque in the system now, we want to be track capable, the tire itself becomes the limitation. Just having the grip on the straightaway to get up to 170 on the straightaway, but be able to hold that grip as you come into a turn. Axle, again, is a torsion differential. Very familiar with everybody here. You know, bulletproof. That's why we put it in. So when you look out to the wheel ends, we've got all new arms, right? So we had to actually get packaged for a slightly bigger brake, slightly bigger wheels and tires. So again, unique arm setups for the GT500. Again, different again from the 350. And then we look at the brake system. One way to think about it, the front brake is 16.5 inches. There's 1965 Mustangs out here today that their entire tire isn't that size. And why that came about, and if people drive 350s, I mean, you don't fade the brakes on a 350, but we've had to upsize the brakes on this vehicle to have that same performance of no fade, so you can get an idea how much faster we're going on the track, that we need that increased capability of braking as we go into it. Again, 6-piston fixed calipers from Brembo, still the SHW, where we have the aluminum center, iron on the outside, right? Just getting the weight down, but also getting more brake capability. So that's why we have a 20-inch wheel. The 20-inch wheel was driven by the fact we're too fast on the track, we needed bigger brakes, so we actually went to 20s from 19s. So that's kind of the evolution as you go through the chassis. And then what was really fortunate with us is we've been working with Billy Johnson extensively on the development of this vehicle. Again, it's so capable, we wanted to have a professional driver driving at various tracks with us. And what we're able to do with that, it helped us really give that electronic tuning for both the engine, transmission, gear selection, our ABS brake controls. We got all this software for that, and that gives us the ability to trail brake this vehicle with its amount of power. And then from the MagnaRide system that we've been using both on the base Mustangs and on the 350s, we've got a lot of big partnership with that supplier called BWI, that we actually got new algorithms with that, and then we can change the setup of that car 1,000 times per second, right? So as you go through the different modes of normal, sport, track, they all give you that different capability of, hey, I'm gonna choose this selection to be this stiff as you go into a turn. We're measuring ride height sensors at each corner. We're measuring your G's, right? We're measuring your pedal position. We'll decide how to set up that shock electronically to really give you a flat, planted feel. So you won't get roll like on the 13 or all those other things as you drive into the corner at that speed. We can basically hold the vehicle up with that technology. So it's the integration of it is really what we'll spend the time on in the engineering, that we can actually make sure we get the maximum amount of performance out of the vehicle. And I'll say I've kind of over budget on track time for the last 2 years quite extensively. But that's really what my team does. They live on the track, they'll drive on the track, and then we bounce it off our partners in motorsports to make sure that it's an intuitive vehicle to drive. And then if you get into the styling, there's a lot of love in the details, right? And we do that way up front nowadays, right? So it's all done in the computer or our analytical processes. So when it comes to the appearance of it, all that detail doesn't look chunky. It all looks fluid. And the only way you can accomplish that, we have a dedicated studio team in Mustang. That's probably the fourth Mustang they've worked on. We have a dedicated aerodynamics team. This is probably their fourth Mustang. And that partnership we have as we do these Mustangs between the aerodynamics teams and the studio teams can create what is, 50% more airflow through the coolers and twice the front opening of a GT350, but it comes out as it's all fluid. The motion looks like it's moving when it's standing still. And that's all unique from the A-pillar forward to accomplish that task to match cooling capability and downforce. We're always trying to balance that out to actually flow more air into the cooling system to keep you endurance on the track, which is also key to a Shelby, but also give you that downforce so as you go into a curve or you go over a hump, you still have confidence that that vehicle is going to hook up. And that's a lot of why we have a relatively large heat extractor on the center of the hood. Basically gives you the ability as you pop out a rain tray, it's that decision if you want these going through or if you were at the track, and that was our solution between those two things. You pop that out and it basically gives you more cooling capability because it's flowing through the radiator freer, and it actually takes a lot of that downforce into the front end. And then you can balance it out at the back. We sell an optional wicker on the rear spoiler. So in general, that is how we accomplish what is the fastest Mustang on a track. We have the most powerful Mustang we've ever created that's street legal. And the only other stuff, if you look on the interior, again, as Jim said, a lot of what the GT500 is no compromise in straight line, no compromise in track performance, and then no compromise on the interior creature comforts. So again, we brought over the digital cluster that's been successful on the base Mustangs. So now these are standard with a digital cluster with all that interface that you've become used to, where you can change your track modes, do track apps, and just have a real clean interface as you're driving on the track for what's really going on for speed and RPM. Okay, Jim, where'd you end up?
Oh, Carl. So what do you think of what Carl and his engineering men and women of Ford Performance have done? Pretty good? I know Carol for sure would be impressed. Do we have the keys?
Yep.
We have the keys. I know Carol for sure is looking down and is impressed with what we've done here. But I would rather the car speak for itself. So Carl's going to take it through the various exhaust modes, and you can hear this unique Shelby Mustang roar. Go ahead, Carl. That's the good neighbor mode. So for people in your neighborhood who yell at you for having too loud of cars and you started it too early on a Saturday morning. So that's when your next door neighbors were too loud the night before, and you want to start it up in the morning and make sure they hear you. So, on behalf of Ford Motor Company, the Ford family, men and women of Ford Performance, thank you for letting us be here at Carlisle, and we truly appreciate it. We look forward to being back again. And Carl will be driving this, leading the parade, not doing smoky burnouts through downtown Carlisle. So thanks again, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate it.
It's the oil change compared to the car. Right. It's just insurance, but we don't. It's not the owner guy to tell you to do that, but it's just. It's just, yeah. The cost. So what are these actually? Yeah. Huh? We haven't announced pricing. We know it's more expensive than a 350, but less expensive than a GT.
Are these bigger fender well bulges than on the 350?
Absolutely. We had bigger tires, all new fender, all new hood.
They look bigger than.
Yep. We had to widen it out. Actually, it's a pure Coke bottle now. Yeah. So if you look at it, we've made the Mustang. The width of the front fender is the same as the rear, so it's you don't notice it, but that's why you look at this car and